welcome. Okay, excited to be here. Honored to be back this year. Just walking around the floor, it's amazing. The energy is so great. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone who's tuning in. My name is Meeta Roy. I am the Director of Strategy and Planning for the Enterprise Technology Division at Peloton. This panel is very near and dear, right? Women in sensors. As a woman in tech for the last almost 20 years, it's always so great to sit down with so many amazing women who are doing great things. And we always talk about diversity is key to unlocking the potential of sensors and electronic technology. So I'm really happy to be moderating this panel with the three of you. So let's start with intros. And I want to just jump into quickly kind of career paths, right? Like we all know that there is no linear path in your career, right? Like there's so many different ways to get to where you are. And people are always asking me like, wait, how did you end up in enterprise tech? You were in product development before, and you've worked across all these different industries. So maybe we can start with you here. We'll just go kind of down the row and give us your background and a little bit about your career path.
No, happy to. So today I'm at T-Mobile, working for the network provider. I get a great opportunity to work on an innovation campus that we have in partnership with the city of Peachtree Corners. However, I started in telecom before I even graduated from college. I started working for what was two-way pagers back in the day, selling to the government. And like you said, walked through different paths in terms of different carriers, different startups. I've been in product development, I've run alliance programs, I've done channel, and it's been interesting to kind of navigate through all that to decide what I liked and didn't like in each one of those opportunities, and then truly what my passion was and what I really enjoy doing. And I'm lucky enough now that I get to bring that all together, from product development to network to strategy and the current role that I have, but it wasn't always easy, especially being a woman trying to navigate those different areas in a predominantly male-oriented field as we're working on this and from emerging technologies. So it's been an interesting ride, for sure.
All right, and similar experiences. So I started out as a chemistry undergraduate major, worked in engineering and product development for a big company. Was excited to try a startup world, so I did that for a while, and then we sold that company to a big company, so I worked for a couple of big companies for a while, and then just a year ago I felt the startup world calling me back. So I went back to the startup world, and so definitely a nonlinear path, having experienced over the course of my career, and especially working for a startup, so many different aspects of product development and management and business development. And my best advice to anybody who's young out there would just be lean in, talk to people, look for opportunities, and you never know what kind of fun you might have and where you'll end up.
So my career definitely is not linear in any way. I skipped going to college just as a starter. So I joined my first startup when I was 19. And back then, we were building a technology that enabled you to broadcast your desktop across the internet to somebody else, right? This was 1998, 1997 timeframe. I mean, WebEx was around then. They were a competitor. We didn't make it, but WebEx did. And really, I like to think about my career in sort of maybe 7 to 10 year cycles. So the first 7 years was I was a web admin. I was a sysadmin. I ran 24/7 public-facing web infrastructure, which led me to the World Health Organization. So I don't know if anybody here remembers SARS back in 2003, 2004. I was running around in the server room as servers were falling over and rebuilding Apache, recompiling it to support just basically more people to be able to access the website. Then from that, then what I learned in that experience was that, well, frankly, I was in my early 20s then. I wanted to make more money. And this is kind of in the early 2000s. And in my mind, there was the view of if I was more customer facing, that's where some of that money is. So I need to get from back of the office, in the closet, into the front of the office, so I can go talk to customers, and talked my way into a startup for a job to do sales engineering. And unfortunately, that startup got bought by Cisco, and then the next 7 to 10 years was really progressively more into technical sales, business development, product marketing. Then, so did that, and that was great, a lot of fun, learned a lot, had amazing mentors. I would say a lot of my growth really came from I grew on the shoulders of middle-aged men that have supported me and enabled my career. And in the last, 6-7 years, again, a new set of career, in this case, healthcare, medical devices, and learning and navigating my way through that. Now, I'm curious what my next 10 years would be, because there's a book called 100-Year Life. I don't know if you've heard of it, but ultimately, as we live longer, the classic view of you work and you retire at 65 will not hold true for the future generation. And so how do we break down our entire life for ourselves, and then continue to use our head and do interesting things going forward? I think that's really exciting.
Well, maybe in 10 years we'll be back and we can hear about your next 10 years. And kind of on that note, sensor technology has been ingrained in your careers, right? Regardless of where you've worked and what career path you've taken. There's so many things that are exciting in sensor technology. Just being here, last year and walking the floor and coming back this year, you can see the advancement, right? It's in the conversations and the demos, things like that. Maybe we can start with you, Catherine. Like, what are you excited about? What technology is really just, really excited about the advancements that we're making?
Sensor fusion. We were chatting about this a little bit in the back, and no single sensor will tell us everything that we need to know, but it's really around the ability to take disparate information that's picked up by different sensors and applying intelligence to tell us something that is going on about our environments. A friend of mine who's is working on something exactly that. He's taking health sensing data, combining with environmental sensing data, with weather data, and to essentially, to tell someone if you have an allergy to and is sensitive to some allergen in your environment, today is a bad day, or you didn't feel so well yesterday. Well, you can look retrospectively and to look at what the environment was like, so that you can proactively manage your environment or your health a bit better, and to be able to see what is contributing to how you feel and how active or just how, your overall wellness. And so that's not possible with a single sensor. You need to have lots of telemetry out there and be able to combine that and to deliver that information.
Right. Debbie, what about you?
I think I'm pretty excited to see sensors moving beyond just hardware into software, into artificial intelligence, and the ways that you can leverage a hardware platform into more valuable information. And part of it builds on the idea of fusion, because in the cloud you can take advantage of sensors that are providing external information that may be relevant to the problem that you're solving with your hardware. And I think the opportunity to bring all that together and solve bigger and harder problems with more efficiency is really fun, and it's exciting for me.
That's great.
So I guess from my perspective is I'm not necessarily the most patient person, and being in this industry for a while where we were working on 2G sensors, and now we talked earlier about 5G sensors and what that evolution looks like. It's again moving quicker. Each one of these sensors provides such great input, be it from agriculture or environmental or like you were just saying about your health and wellness, but each one operates on its own. And that's the part that's frustrating to me, because truly it all needs to come together and then build on each other to this meta data level in order for us to really move forward. I think back to telling my daughter when she was much younger, you're never going to have to learn to drive. By then there's going to be driverless vehicles, because I was working in a connected vehicle, 12 years ago. And I thought for sure I had this whole plan for her. The front yard was going to be all grass. It was going to be this green landscape. There wasn't going to be cars. We were going to be efficient. Air quality would be better. And here I sit and she's driving and we've got great intelligence and intelligence in the corridors. However, we're not there yet. And then you look at the, what's going on environmentally with storms and all of that. So part of that, as what I'm looking for is, the collaboration amongst all of these great companies that are here and building on each other to really get there. We spoke a little bit also about the human, impact. And there's times and portions in my career that I'm doing stuff and I'm like, I can't believe I'm still doing this. Like, as one person, I'm building this. Surely there is a computer automated system that's going to do this. So it's really, to your point, leaning into moving forward in that advancements. There's all these great ideas, but coming together to kind of make it into a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, though, right? There's a lot of advancements, which means there's a lot of technology, which means there's a lot of also waste that kind of comes out of it, right? If you think about a lot of us working on either same things or different things, but tweaked a little bit. I want to talk about sustainability, right? Like, we have a responsibility to take care of our planet. We have a responsibility to take care of the next generation. And so wanted to, I think technology and innovation should go hand in hand with sustainability. So wanted to just kind of talk about that a little bit. What have you been doing? How have you been kind of bridging that gap? And, what would you like to see done in the future as well?
Now, this is a personal topic for me. I sat in yesterday on Adrian's session. I don't know if anybody saw that from some of his farming lens. And my family is originally from the Midwest in terms of what does it look like for the average farmer and how do they survive and how is it viable. Of course, there's lots of sensors that can be built to kind of improve when to water, how to water, what are the chemical pieces to make farming more productive, as well as the electronics of, say, the tractors and so forth. But I also look at it from, our everyday life in terms of the types of sensors we're building, the antennas, the parts, the materials. I don't know about you. I mean, every home has a junk drawer. I have multiple drawers in my office of just things that I'm continuing to gather. In my office space, which I'm rapidly running out of, is sort of the network evolution that's happening so quickly that a device that I have is no longer viable, that now we're moving on to the next thing, but I haven't quite figured out what to do with the old one yet, but we're moving that quickly. So it's like this double-edged sword. I talk about all this consortium coming together, but how do we continue to build on a little bit of what we have or repurpose it for something else that can be there? Another effort that we work on is sort of sustainability. We talked a little bit about electric vehicles and EV charging and what does that look like from a sustainability, go from the farmer to the connected car again, and what does that infrastructure look like? I shared earlier with the team that I'm in Georgia, I'm in the South, and to take road trips with my family, I won't buy a vehicle like that because I would never get to the beach. I mean, that won't be my family vehicle. So what are we doing in terms of sustainability to bring more electric vehicles or the infrastructure it takes to do that, to put more EV charging or other components out there that we're actually moving forward? Going again into what I told my daughter, like, will she have an autonomous vehicle that can self-charge? I don't know, because there's all this infrastructure that has to be there. And that's on our shoulders to kind of build out and use a little bit of what we have to bring that forward, to build it forward for this next generation. I do believe that's our charge, our mission.
Yep, I agree. You want to add anything to that, Debbie or Catherine?
Yeah, well, so I think one exciting thing about working in sensors is it does give us an opportunity to build efficiency into systems. Mm-hmm. So if you look at something like leveraging air quality sensors with HVAC systems, how do we heat our buildings more efficiently? How do we cool our buildings more efficiently? How do we not waste so much in the first place? So I think that's a huge part of building sustainability. I also think it's really important for those who are building products to think about supply chains and sustainability and how are we going to handle end-of-life questions? Can this product be recycled? That's something that N5 is already looking into is, we're putting stuff out in the woods to detect fire, but we're also making plans to bring it back and recycle it. We don't want to just leave things out in our pristine wildlands. And that's important as product designers to think through.
Yeah, I agree.
I can speak to that a little bit too. It's still early for us to kind of think about what sustainability looks like in the actual manufacturing production of our technology. That being said, we are very conscious about thinking about waste and reusability, especially in a healthcare setting. I mean, if you kind of think about all the disposable items that you see in hospitals and so on, they tend to be a lot of disposable plastics, right? And so how do you get away from that? How do you get into a material where that couples with a sensor that is biodegradable, that can be disposed in a sustainable way? So we are not there yet, given where we are, just as an early stage startup. But certainly, as we think about the product roadmap and how we want to see these sensors come together, that is a very critical part of that discussion.
Got it. I mean, technology for good, right? We have to use it for the good of humankind, but we also have to be kind back to our planet. So I think there's so much work to be done here, but I'm happy to hear that we're unlocking, right, the potential. One thing that I've always been fascinated by is just how we're advancing. This is the Women in Sensors panel, right? And how we've been advancing in femtech and healthcare tech and things like that. However, obviously we all know what happened last week, the overturn of Roe versus Wade, which is, wow, I don't have words. It's emotional. Okay. How is that going to impact innovation, right? How do we stay resilient in what we want to do, what we want to deliver, right? This next generation of women technologists who have been helping drive innovation, and just wanted to, just kind of open some conversation there. I think it's something important for us to cover in this new world.
Okay. So I agree. Big week. It's a pretty large, substantial week. So again, I look at it to the example as a mother, and what that future looks like for her and for us women in general too. Is there's just, I think, a lot of learnings we will learn from this. What the impacts are to our communities, to the areas where there will be some allowance and or not allowance. And I think we'll learn from each other in terms of what the best practices are going forward. When I think about from technology, naturally that will come into the fold, because there'll be programs that are stood up, initiatives either for or against. Either way, there'll be a lot of outcome and learning from this, and technology will sit at the center of that information. At the end of the day, this is information. It's either information about access or not access, medicine, procedures, technologies, whatever it may be, that will be driven from this decision that will impact what that future is for now and for the future, however long it may be.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And just going in a slightly different direction. One of the things that I treasure from my career is the relationships I've built, the people I've met, people from wildly different backgrounds, experiences, walks of life, and at a more local, personal level, I think the best thing that we can do is help support each other, take care of the people we're working with. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you came from, but look out for each other.
And I mean, we all know that we live in an unequal place, not just here in the U.S., but in the world, right? There's always going to be equality challenges, no matter how equal we all think we are as human beings, whether race, gender, color. That being said, I'm also very hopeful and optimistic for us as people and our ability to innovate out of challenging places to be. And so will there be innovations, to your point, Tiana, around, are there opportunity to open information that enables, that facilitates the increase of tolerance across people, and also facilitates the ability for people that require services for them to be able to find those services. I think today, information asymmetry exists everywhere. And so is there an opportunity to now make the information that's available to as many people that need it, which then we can innovate our way into a future that we'll all be proud of.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for addressing that. I go back to a couple of comments here. We have to rise up and rise together, right? We have to lift each other up. And I think a very important piece of that is mentorship. And you touched on this earlier, Catherine. In my career, kind of growing up, right, in my career, I've been mentored by some amazing male colleagues, and my network is fantastic. But there's something very special about being mentored by someone you can relate to, in the sense that looks like you, right? Maybe it's a woman, maybe, whatever it is, whatever the diversity it is that you're looking for, that's going to help it shape and mold your career. Wanted to touch on, we have to pay it forward, right? And so what is, what's the path of mentorship that you have given, right? And what's the path of mentorship that you want to share kind of with this next generation?
I'll start. So two thoughts. One is really be able to spare time. So meaning that I've spent time with upstarts, young women that are just building their career very early, and to just be able to share my experience and just serve as a sounding board, right, in terms of decision making and thinking about how they navigate through a working environment like this. That's been something that I've always been actively participating in and very passionate about. And so for anyone who's listening, if I can be helpful to you in any way, please do reach out, because ultimately that's what we are all here for. Like, someone did the same thing for us, and so it's our job to do that for somebody else. Actually, in fact, a colleague, and I would arguably say a mentor, is sitting in the audience and supporting me today. Hi, Steve. And then the second thing is then give someone the opportunity to shine. I think it's, if there's an opportunity to take on someone who, we know that women are not always the loudest about, touting ourselves, but if there's an opportunity to hire someone and give them opportunity, absolutely do so. That's something that I also strive to do.
I think at the end of the day, every business, every product, every innovation is about the people that build it. And the way that companies and businesses become successful is by building teams. And I will never be as proud of anything as I will be of the team that helped me build the first company that we sold. They were amazing. We worked together through thick and thin and made something really great happen. So I think that, as we get older and grow up in our career as leaders, it really is important to look to who's coming after us and how do we support younger people? How do we offer opportunities to try new things? Whether you want to be in engineering or marketing or sales, giving people an opportunity to explore new career paths, giving them support to learn what might be interesting and opportunistic for them. It's a great thing to be able to do that, and it's important to do that.
And to know that failing is okay.
Yes.
So from my perspective, I look at it a little bit as, the first thing that comes to my mind was tough love. I feel like my mentors have done that for me, and I feel like I do that forward. And I say that in the sense of being there to be tough enough to be like, why do you like that idea? What's going on with it? Do you think that, and being able to approach those questions, and then knowing when I'm failing at it to be like, okay, that's awful. Let me move on to something else. But also the nurturing side of it to help build up that confidence, to help move it forward, yet asking the tough questions at the same time. I felt like my mentors have done that for me. And then when I work with others, I have that same approach. It's a little bit of a push. Let me pull you back a little bit further, and then we'll go back. Because that's part of developing a product, is you fail, and then you try again, and then you fail again. Everybody has that in every single work scenario or conversation. You're like, all right, I didn't address it this way. Let me try it that way. But learning through that, I think, is a process, and it takes time. And I think that, whether you're building a product or working with a new group or any sort of challenges, that you're constantly working through those phases. So for me, it's a bit of tough love and trying to work that forward.
I love that. I think that's such great advice to anyone who's in product development, any entrepreneurs, right? Anyone trying to break into tech. What advice do all of you have, for folks that are really trying to make it? it's a tough world, right? Tech and working in tech is, has its challenges. And I think you're right. Learning from your mentors, sometimes what you take from your mentors is going to help you have the right conversation with your boss, right? Which is going to help you position you in your career. So just wanted to as we get ready to close this panel, like what's some recommendations that you have for folks, or what are some learnings maybe that you can share to help people feel like they're on the right path?
Again? Okay.
All right. So first thought is there's a lot of conversations about mentors and mentorship, and I think most of us, as growing up, I just think I didn't know I needed mentors. I didn't even know that was a thing, right? And it was something that I learned through my career of people that were kind and proactive in coaching me along the way. And I really want to encourage people to essentially build out your network of mentors and actively seek out mentors that can open doors and guide you. I really don't think people know that, and that's not internalized enough. That's one thing. And second thing is really to really kind of be open to experimentation. I think, to your point, Tiana, when we build products, we are constantly prototyping. But we don't prototype with our lives, with our careers in terms of what we want to do, and find opportunity to do so and to identify what is it that you're passionate about and where do you want to make your contributions. And it will take a few go-arounds to get there, and that's perfectly okay. You don't have to go, again, life doesn't happen linearly. It's lots of zigzags and detours along the way.
I think the point that it's okay to fail is a great one, because looking back, some of the best decisions I've made in my life were also some of the riskiest. It's like looking forward, you make your plan, but at the end of the day, you jump off a cliff, and it's either going to work or it's not. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You'll go do something else. But to have the courage to say it's okay to take a risk that I may fail at, because I may also make something great happen. And if you never push yourself, or you have someone kind who can push you in that direction, then I think you lose out a lot in an opportunity. One piece of advice that I've given to myself and I've given to other women, I don't know if this is something that men do as much, but I know it's something that a lot of women do. It's so easy to be hard on ourselves. And my advice is get out of your own head and imagine you were talking to your best friend. What would you tell her? Because you're probably going to be a lot kinder to that best friend than that interior voice in your head might actually be to you. So that's my parting advice to keep up.
It's funny I say this, but mine's going to be embrace change. Even though I've talked about how I feel like it needs to move faster, it does move fast and things go forwards, backwards, whatever, which way. But part of my success has always been the ability to not get too caught up or stay too long in something that's changed. Yeah. I can't dwell in that for too long because it will change again before I've gotten over the first change. And that's technology. It constantly is moving. So the ability to adapt and move forward and adapt again and be nimble in that has proven out well for me. And then secondly is your integrity. I never lose sight of that. I always keep my line at where I'm at, even if I fail. But for me, it's just having a clear guidance to where I'm going as I'm adapting. It's kind of like you're bobbing and weaving and moving things around, but that's part of the process and part of the cycle. So those are the two things I would say.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful panel. I really am honored to share the stage with the three of you. Wanted to just open up if there's any questions that anybody had or any comments that you want to add. I mean, we're in it together. No? Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.